Hello once again, this is Reverend Dr. Ted Wiard here to talk once again about the different issues going on with the COVID-19, or known as the corona pandemic issues that are up and running, that are affecting us all. Thanks to the Taos Chamber of Commerce, as well as University of New Mexico Taos, and Golden Willow Retreat and Golden Willow Counseling, we are trying to give a weekly show, just allowing that just 3 or 4 minutes to remember that we're all in this together, and that this is a natural process that we're in. Maybe not the virus, but all of us in our emotional world. Today we're going to be talking about trauma, and trauma comes in different forms. Trauma is historical trauma, which is the trauma that we've had over many times in our life, as well as generational trauma. And then we also have complex trauma, and that's trauma that's happened in a prolonged time in multiple different areas possibly. There's also vicarious trauma, and vicarious trauma is that prolonged trauma, that prolonged experience where we're noticing other people. Well, I'm sorry to say most of us are finding all three of these happening right now. And trauma, as a definition, is the result of an event series or series of events or set circumstances that is experienced by an individual as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening, and that has lasting adverse effects on the individual's functioning and mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Well, I'm sorry to say we've all been separated, we've had to learn new ways to do the world, and this is prolonged. So I'm sorry to say that we do have trauma. What happens in trauma is our brain actually starts to shut down and it moves into the limbic system. And in that limbic system, we're just trying to survive. So we move into a place of protection. So we might have the emotions of shock, anger, denial, disbelief, lack of concentration, more anger, irritability, hypersensitivity, anxiety, fear, guilt, shame, isolation, sad, hopelessness, helplessness. All these different emotions might be bubbling up at different times. There is a silver lining in the midst of trauma. In trauma, our brain is still trying to survive, and so we start to become more creative. And as we start to find ways to empower ourselves and find ways to connect with one another, what happened in Italy with the singing in the streets, with the clapping for our healthcare givers, and that in the evenings, all these different ways, we start to come up with different ways of being creative and finding new ways to be resilient, redesigning and refiguring out our priorities in our life, finding new compassion, finding out what is important, as well as realizing life still does go on. The flowers are coming out, spring is arriving, these different areas, and we start to notice these different parts that are happening. We find new ways to connect. We find new ways to empower ourselves as well as empower the whole community as a collective. We do different ways of thinking. Maybe we connect more spiritually. Maybe we connect in different ways internally, which we call an internal locus of control, as well as that external locus of control. We have more compassion for people. We might even be able to identify small victories. Different ways we found a way to eat. I know I'm really enjoying that we're making the colorful meals in the evening before we eat them, and the gratitude of finding different sauces and just spending that more family time. And it's a victory of pausing, of taking that moment. As we do that, we start to build more safety within our brain. As we build more safety, we start moving back into our frontal lobe. Maybe we find new ways to be compassionate with our family members, with our loved ones, and with the community. And so in the midst of trauma, we can identify that trauma, identify those emotions, realize they're natural and normal. They still don't mean everything's okay, but we can start moving into ways to empower ourselves, better our community, and come together. So once again, from Golden Willow Counseling, Golden Willow Retreat, Taos Chamber of Commerce, and University of New Mexico Taos, we wish you a good week this week, and we'll talk to you again next week. You take care, and remember, together we can get through this.